Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to bring you up to speed on where we are in the quarter. Currently, we are in Module 5. And as you know, in Module 4, we begin to look at the concept of measurement, primarily from the perspective of quantitative research or quantitative analysis, where you look at different variables and try to define or determine how they are best measured, different concepts. And again, this is really captured from the perspective of quantitative research. And in many ways, when we discuss measurement, it's thought of primarily as a quantitative study or a quantitative perspective. However, as you can see in the text, and as we are looking at in this module, we are looking at measurement from the perspective of qualitative research. And in many ways, qualitative research is much more robust and much more comprehensive than quantitative research. It's fuller, and less reliance is placed upon making broad assumptions on generalizations. In addition, it is more timely. At the same time, you aren't able to make those broad generalizations, and it primarily focuses on a case study approach or multiple case study approaches. But in any event, the ability to measure items and concepts both quantitatively and qualitatively is important in research, but also in program evaluation. Oftentimes we are preoccupied with either one type of analysis, whether it's quantitative or qualitative, but the best approach is a mixed method approach that utilizes both types of research in its analysis, because the quantitative analysis will provide us with the ability to look at things from a general perspective, while the qualitative perspective allows us to dig in much deeper and provide much more depth and scope to our research. Also, I'd like to mention that the weekly journals that are assigned, they are due on Thursdays by midnight, and while most of you are submitting them on time, I just want to remind everyone that they are due on Thursdays by 11:59 or midnight. So I've made updates in the syllabus and on Blackboard so that you see that more frequently when you visit Blackboard, and there are less questions, or no questions actually. And finally, you should have decided on the organization that you've decided that you've are going to do your research project on. And if you haven't, I want you to keep in mind that while the ideas that you propose are fine and sound very interesting, that you're going to have to determine, or I guess explain how you would collect data for the project. So while you're not expected to collect data and you're not expected to do any analysis, you do have to explain the source of your data collection and precisely how that will be done. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about the organizations you want to conduct your research project on. Other common areas that have been done in the past that students have done, and I think it's in many ways easier to collect data in some of these areas. So animal control, economic development, finance, fire service, HR management, parking services, property appraisal, public health, public transit, and social services. So by all means, if you're well secure in your research and are far along, then continue with that, and I'll assist you throughout the process. But if you're wavering a little bit and you think it's going to be challenging proposing the research or the idea of collecting data, then we can talk about it, and those are some additional suggestions. Finally, I have put together a PowerPoint that explains and discusses the research question in a little bit more detail. So I know the assignment for this week has you develop a research question and examine research questions from other sources in the literature, but I wanted to go into depth a little bit more about that. So there's a lecture on PowerPoint that explains that in more detail. Alright, thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon.